I'm going to do it in French. So, bonjour à tout le monde et bonjour, bonjour,
Good
bonne
morning,
soirée.
everybody, or good afternoon or good evening, depending upon where you are. I see that there are quite a few of us. We seem to be 115 plus this morning, so thank you very much for having come to attend this meeting. I do hope that you will find it to have been worth the effort and an interesting meeting. It was decided that we would have a workshop rather than the General Assembly. We thought it was better to wait for that. Therefore, the workshop will be dealing with customs and EAD, both of which are very, very important subjects, particularly this year, as you'll see, and obviously they do concern EMS very, very much. Before we go any further, I would like to offer the floor to Mr. Boussetta, who wanted to join us this morning and to give us a little update on what's happening in the UPU in general and in EMS in general. So Abdel, the floor is yours, and I will retake it afterwards so that we can actually get into the bones of the meeting. I don't know whether the vice chairman has been able to join us because he was having a few technical hiccups with his connection, I think. So we'll see in the meantime whether he's actually managed to join us. Abdel, the floor is yours. Thank you, Patrick. Can you hear me well? It appears so. Good. Thank you very much.
I would like to address just a very brief, to share with you some thoughts. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank all of you for joining this workshop. I thank also the chair, Mr. Richon, Patrick Richon, and the vice chair, Mr. Osamo, for taking this initiative to organize this important event. I would like to commend also the EMS unit work under the leadership of Wendy Etan. I would like to highlight and emphasize UPU's work in relation to electronic advanced data. As highlighted by Mr. Patrick Richon, it is a very important issue this year, which coincides with the pandemic situation. One of the key issues here, of course, is for the UPU to work in close cooperation with all the stakeholders on the postal supply chain and security, customs authorities, carriers, both air and surface, law enforcement agencies, and so on. I am convinced and determined that the UPU should be ready to support and facilitate the development of seamless integration of transport, customs, and security process with EAD requirements. The UPU is taking tangible steps to streamline postal traffic in order to ensure that mail transportation is done in speedier, safe, and secure manner. The overall aim is to make the postal supply chain as secure as possible, taking into account the operating environment in terms of regulatory, operational, and security development that could influence the postal supply chain. When I see the statistics regarding specifically EMS, we have until now 36% of members are not yet transmitting ITMATT, and one average 4 out of 10 items have no ITMATT. Now is the right time not only to analyze but also to develop and implement the adoption of electronic data exchange supported by new IT tools to meet all regulatory requirements, exchange the EAD between post, customs, and rail carriers, improve interconnectivity, and support the development of multimodal transport solution for all modes of transport. Of course, this requirements coincide with the special situation, as you know, characterized by decrease in the volume close to 16% last year when compared with previous years. We have also in the second quarter of 2020 almost 49 members stopped their EMS exports, and by the end of the year, still 17 did not yet return to their export volume by end of the year 2020, representing 9% of the members of cooperative. I am saying that because this situation, we don't have any, we don't have the choice now, but to implement this requirement. Those are not postal because they are security related and imposed by border authorities and transport security agency. We can turn this burden into an advantage. Data capture and data exchange must also be used to facilitate and accelerate customs clearance and transport security. I think that we have been used that EMS was pioneer in many areas regarding the postal business, and I am confident that EMS also operator will be able to meet this requirement and to take benefits from them. In conclusion, I wish you a very successful and fruitful deliberation. Thank you, Mr. Richon, for giving me the floor, and I hand over to you. Thank you.
Merci, merci, Monsieur Boussetta. Bien, ben, on va
Thank you very much, Mr. Boussetta. We're very grateful for your presence this morning. Now I think we should return to our first love, if I can put it that way, which is customs. The matters being dealt with here are, of course, extremely important, and I think we can look at them if we move on to the next slide. Thank you. As you know, this is not a new issue, because actually, the postal world has been working on it since 2010. You'll remember the Yemen incident, which didn't cause the postal world as such, but it did have a major impact on it. As you see, quite a few processes have taken place in the intervening period. There was the 1st of January 2021, of course, when decisions were implemented, but we had actually started a lot earlier with ITMATT. And that, I think, had been going on since 2017. Now,
les États et les douanes locales
to a stage where states, local customs, and major economic groupings are asking us to transmit ITMATT for security reasons, which are logical. Recalling what happened with the Yemen incident, it's easy to understand why, but there's also a question of facilitating customs clearance on arrival and managing increasing flows of e-commerce today. All of us, of course, are benefiting from that in postal services because there's an incredible boost to postal flows that has been given by e-commerce. If they're handled properly, then local sellers benefit. If not, then they can become less competitive. What we can't expect, I think, is to go back to the status quo antebellum. So we need to prepare for further developments which will need to occur in the future. EMS is, of course, the premium service of posts. And that means that we tend to be compared with what the integrators do. They have set up an express economy service that is a direct competitor of EMS, and that means we have to be ready to compete. Transmission of ITMATT makes it possible for us to provide a much better service because we can guarantee deadlines in that much more efficient way. We can even extend the range of services we offer because we can provide value-added products. Those will further increase volume, but will also help us to charge a little more and to be more competitive on our market. Next slide, please. As Mr. Busetta was indicating a few moments ago, this data is obviously EMS data. You'll see other data which may indicate slightly different results, but this is what came out of our database, our famous EMS bubble, which is managed within the Postal Technology Center servers. Here you can see that 36% of members still do not transmit ITMATT, and that 4 parcels out of every 10 are sent without customs data. That obviously is going to cause problems, quite sizable problems in the future, because as we can see from the IB circulars that we all receive, not a week goes past without a circular announcing that a given country has made it obligatory to send EAD and to transmit ITMATT. So I think all of us, whatever region we come from, will find this interesting, because you can see the scores for the different regions, which actually show that we still have quite a lot of work in this area left to do. Now, the Vice Chairman was going to have presented the agenda, but alas, he's not here, so I'm sorry for usurping his position, but apparently he has technical problems, which mean that he is not able to be with us, something he regrets very much, which means I'm going to have to go through the agenda on his behalf. We've had registration, of course, we've had opening remarks, and now we're going to move on to presentations concerning the new regulations that countries are putting in place around the world. You'll see that there are quite a few such things in 2021. Some things have either already been put in place since the beginning of this year or coming very soon. If you have any questions following the presentations, we'll be happy to try and take them. If, however, we don't manage to answer all the questions, then we can take them later. I'd like to thank some countries, including the People's Republic of China and the Cayman Islands, who have prepared their own presentations on the situation in their countries, in which we will be able to see concerning what they are doing at the moment. You will also have Javier Garcia from the IB, who will be making a presentation including some more global figures, not just EMS figures. Next slide, please. A little later, we will have a presentation from the POC on technical solutions that are available to you for data capture of ITMATT messages. That will be followed by a presentation by the Cayman Islands, as I said a few moments ago, showing how they have taken practical steps to implement CDS. And again, after those few presentations, we'll have questions and answers. We will then go on to some other reports, either from countries or from the EMS unit within the IB. That will bring us neatly to the last exchange of information and opinions and the end of the meeting. At this stage, I'd like to hand the floor over to, I think it's Adar from the IB, is it? Nouradan, yes, that's right. I'll give you the floor so that you can make the presentation, which is to start us off on the modification of regulations. The floor is yours.
No, you get the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair, and a good day to all. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to provide an update on the custom-related and business requirements for the provision of ITMATT. Obviously, as echoed out by the Mr. Busetta, the Director of Operations, in his opening remarks, and also echoed similarly out by the chair, EAD is really critical for our designated operators, and having this workshop both timely and important as the regulations demanding EAD requirements almost come into force. So as you may all remember, and also as presented by the chair, EAD is not new for the UPU community, and something that has been under the works for some time, as back as 2010. However, I think we started working very honestly on the from the UPU's perspective from 2015, when there was a POC resolution to have an EAD steering committee that will help develop a roadmap to help member countries. So on this slide, you can see where the reality, which is pushing all of us to this, is that the world is definitely a digital world, and the reality is a data-driven world. Some of the key issues around the data, of course, important for us is the postal data, the flows and the systems that support the data flows. Data protection is very important, and as we can see on the screen, there are a lot of the legislative landscape shows that a lot of countries and regions have come up with data protection legislation. So that's something very important and has impact on data flows and data exchange. Then, of course, pertinent to that, there will be data sharing agreement that is very important to have, so that the transfer of data can be done between the different partners that are exchanging the data. Legal demands, as I said, legislations are there and they're demanding these requirements, and therefore to meet these legal demands that are around data sharing and data protection and data privacy definitely cannot be overemphasized. Then, of course, very important is also the social requirements, the protection of our customers and partners, because these are personal data, and that plays a key role in ensuring that the data issues and the data protection and privacy are really taken the seriousness they deserve. On the next slide, we will just quickly look at the key milestones for the post. This has been with us for some time, as already introduced. And we can see that as far back as when the STOP Act started demanding the 70% of all incoming items by 31st December 2018. And of course, as the chair said, and Mr. Buseta also mentioned, EMS has been the front runner in this. And of course, EMS was already doing 100% of that. And then the linking of S10 and S9, which has come into become a UPU regulation in March 2020. And then you can see the more recent milestones, and why 2020 is a very critical year for the UPU, and the designated operators are the ones now that have come into place 2021. Starting with January 2021, which is the one that is the mandatory ITMATT, which is the UPU regulations have made ITMATT mandatory to be shared for items containing goods. And then the latest one is the 15th of March 2021, last month, the PLASI, the ICS2 requirement from the European Commission has also come into force. So almost the main deadlines for enforcement of EAD requirements are already in place, and therefore discussing EAD related matters and sharing with the designated operators what the UPU is doing in this aspect is therefore not only important, as I said, but critical at this juncture. And then going forward, we have a few more, sorry, go back to the same slide. So Akram, if you can go back to the earlier slide, sorry. Yeah, this one, thanks. So on 1st of March, we expect to have the release 2 of the ICS2, which will be dealing with pre-arrival, that is by air, and also transit EAD, which is another very important aspect for the European region, the European Commission and the Union, how to handle transit-related EAD matters. And then finally, we will be having in March 2024, the release 3, which is pre-arrival on service, road, rail, and maritime. Thank you, Akram, and we can go to the next slide. So quickly, just a quick update on the progress of where we are globally with the EAD since adoption of EAD since 2017 to 2021. Currently, we have, and these are the reports that were run as of February. The March reports are not yet ready, so unfortunately, we could not provide those ones. They are usually run on the 22nd of the following month. So 195 DOs are sending PRIDES, 190 DOs are able to receive ITMATT, and 150 DOs are able to send ITMATT. Of course, some of the most challenging issues we have had on this is, as I mentioned earlier, the data sharing agreement, which is a very critical aspect that has really been hindrance for some of the designated operators. And hopefully the final version of the UPU's multi-data sharing agreement is going to be presented to the Postal Operation Council's Committee 1 on the 19th, which is next week. And hopefully if we're able to get the adoption of that, then this will facilitate, as we said earlier, the ease of data exchange between designated operators. Operational issues are also some challenges. Designated operators have operational issues, which are also obstacles to the faster adoption of EAD. IT and the equipments related to IT also are some challenges we realize are becoming a very big obstacle to adoption. However, as you may recall, there are two main global projects handling and dealing and helping the designated operators with this. We have the UPU's Quality of Service Common Fund, EAD, Data Capture and Transmission Project. And also we have the Operational Readiness for E-commerce, which is the regional strategic project for the cycle. So with the support, technical support coming from all these initiatives, and of course, not to forget that the US tied funds that was earmarked for EAD and postal security in the last extraordinary Congress. So there's a lot of efforts that's geared towards the supporting our designated operators to be compliant with these regulations as highlighted. Next slide, please. So here is the global postal model, which was a model that was developed by the EAD steering committee to help the facilitation of EAD data exchange. All the 8 floats are already in place. Of course, there are a few ongoing issues that are being resolved as and when they come, because this is something that is evolving, especially the requirements that are coming with EAD are also evolving as we go. Because there are new requirements that keep on coming, and therefore to be monitored and adjusted in a way to be able to comply with the global postal model. There's a lot of ongoing works under the EAD steering committee's umbrella through all the working groups under the committees, so that they work on all the elements related to EAD in compliance with the requirements as mentioned. So some of the main focus right now is, of course, the flow 0 is the capture flow, and then how to make sure that S10 and S9 linking is done. Flow 1, the ITMATT transmission, and this is where the Common Fund project and the US Tied Fund project are really right now focusing to help our member countries with the required resources to be able to send ITMATT. And then PRIDES, which is of course ITMATT and PRIDES is what will form a complete EAD. So the PRIDES is also something that we are really working on in flow 5. And then lastly, flow 7, going from Q2 2021 going forward, as the regulatory requirements for pre-arrival will be coming into place in 2023. We are working very closely on CADIT and how to make sure that EAD flag, which basically is saying that the applicable requirements, applicable regulations rather, related to EAD have been met, and this is something that is ongoing. Thank you very much. And next slide, please, Akram. So this is just a quick short of update on the participants of the main project I just mentioned, the UPU's Quality of Service Common Fund project. I think this project was launched in February 2020, at almost at the beginning of the pandemic, and definitely the project had challenges because of the disruption that COVID did cause the entire globe, and this was not an exception. However, it's still encouraging to note some of the results that have been achieved between then and now. 143 designated operators are participating in this project, and it's good to really and encouraging to see that from November 2019, and basically that's the end of 2019 and now 2020, when I was talking about COVID disrupted, but still you see the increase. We had 44 designated operators out of the 143 that were capable of sending ITMATT in November 2019, but now we are 103. If we look at ITMATT over PREDES, percentage of the total volume, again, it increased from 15% in just a year to about 50% globally, and that's where we are. And then, of course, the heat map showing how we are doing regionally. So despite, as I said, the challenges that COVID brought to the globe, I think this was very, very encouraging, and really the designated operators did all they could with the challenges around them to ensure that the adoption of EAD is given the priority as the regulations require them. Of course, we are at 50%, which is very far from the 100% that is required, and that will be something that will be we're working within these projects to make sure that our designated operators benefit from all the support that is available so that they can achieve the levels of compliance required. Next slide, please. So under the project, these are some of the actionable items in the national plan that we have done in phase one. Phase one of this project is coming to an end of this month, April 2021. And therefore, these are some of the key elements and action items that we are encouraging the designated operators to follow to help them adopt and implement EAD. First, of course, is to prioritize their top 10 to 5 partners in terms of volumes and in terms of requirements, because for those partners that require regulatory requirement, definitely it is important for them to make sure they prioritize to exchange EAD with those that already require EAD for their custom risk assessment purposes, as I said earlier, such as the STOP Act and the ICS2 requirements. The second thing is we're encouraging very much as an action plan for the designated operators is to sign the data sharing agreement as required for those top 10 partners they are going to exchange with in terms of the volumes they exchange with them and the requirements of the regulations. We enforce the use of S10 and of course CN23 and 22 on small packets at the post office, train the staff to review the correct completion of the forms, roll out the CDS and CDS post online training and production, and this has really been well achieved. We've done online training for I think 136 designated operators out of the 143 that were participating in this project. And 6 is to ensure that the CDS web manual checks is done and data capture capability at the Office of Exchange by mail class and by partners. Another action plan item is the enforcement of IPS scanning for all items, packets at dispatch office for exchange, such so that is PREDES, that's S9 and S10. So that scanning of the IPS is some of the action items that we really encourage for the participants. And this is reflected in the EAD national roadmap that we monitor for each of the participating designated operators. And then the plan to conduct pilot post office with the capture of custom data so that they can replicate that in the other post offices. So we are working in the project to introduce a pilot post office concept where all the required equipment is supported by the project and put in place for them so they can use that as a benchmark when they are rolling out in their other facilities. And then conduct procurement for the pilot office. As I said, this project is supporting the designated operators, not only on training, but also equipment. And therefore, we are helping them procure the basic required IT equipment that will help them conduct and implement EAD requirements. And analyze and provide, of course, the procurement goes through the normal QSF procurement processes of ensuring that the process is fully followed. And then lastly, train the staff on the pilot post office on how to link the customer data with S10 and the ITMATT. Next slide, please, Akram. This is just a more visual layout of what I was just explaining. Roll out the CDS for online training, which was done, as I said, to ensure the CDS manual checks are done by May class. Again, just a visual setup of the explanation I have just mentioned on the 10 action plan for each of the designated operators. And of course, lastly, to enforce IPS scanning for all items. Next slide, please, Akram. Again, this is just, again, a visual impression which we share with the designated operators of best practices that have been practiced by some of the designated operators, so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel, but already take advantage of the best practices that are there. This was a CDS kiosk setup at Gibraltar Post, which was very well promoted to the participants, so they can easily borrow from that when they are setting up their own CDS kiosks for the capture of ITMATT data. And then, of course, moving from the manual data capture and handwritten forms, and trying to make sure that we work with, as we are talking about, everything is digital, we go to printed labels that can easily be digitally read. Thank you. And next slide, please. This was just an impression that we wanted to show to the participants of a success story from the participant of the project. This was Guyana Post. They received procured the supported equipment through the project, and already started using them in their post offices, and they've already put in places the kiosk and also the stations as you see them. So we are also trying to, again, promote through the rest of the team to take advantage of such kind of success stories and replicate in their post offices to help the facilitation of EAD capture at source as much as possible. Thank you very much. I think that brings to the end of my presentation. As I said earlier, this is very timely. We are currently really working also through the ORE2 project to present the same EAD workshops between last 2 weeks. We already covered 6 regions. I think yesterday we had the same kind of workshop for Africa French speaking, and Friday this week we'll have it for Pacific. So it's timely that we are addressing EAD related matters on this on these early workshops in the first quarter of the year, so that as the regulations have come into place, designated operators will be able to find out how they can get help. Our contacts are there. Please reach out to us, and if necessary, we're working very closely with the EMS team. Of course, as I said, the US Tide Fund, there are solutions that are also related EAD that is spearheaded by the EMS team, and thanks for that. And with that, I say, Chair, thank you very much, and ready to take any questions and comments.
So thanks, Noor. Is there any question? I don't see any raised hand, but probably it's a bit early. So as I was saying, if you don't have question right now, don't worry. As Noor was saying, you get his contact detail, and he will be pleased to answer. And I think that will be the same for the people from EMS unit. So no question. Okay. Donc, thanks, Noor, and probably just one more thing.
Allô,
Oui, yeah.
Allô?
Oui.
Allô?
Oui, allez-y, on vous entend.
Yes, please go ahead. We can hear you. Where are you from? This is the DRC. Please go ahead. We wanted to know because on the projects for the EAD project, we previously haven't received information on equipment, which I heard mention of equipment that was provided to some, but we haven't received any updates on that at this stage. So I wanted to know what's going on with that. Thank you. Thank you very much for the question.
Your turn.
Thank you very much, and thanks for that question. Yes, the project also has basic support equipment that is being procured. So what I will suggest is if possibly the national QSF coordinator for DRC can contact the project team, and we will guide them on how to get the equipment and how to procure the equipment. So if you can contact the project team or the QSF secretariat, usually we are procuring this equipment through the QSF process, and therefore the national QSF coordinator is the key person and the liaison on ground. So if you can ask them to liaise with the project team. Thank you, Peter.
Est-ce que ça répond à votre question?
Ok, merci beaucoup.
Et
Thank you very much. Perhaps you can put the regional coordinator in copy, and that way they can also make sure they follow up.
Ok.
Y a-t-il d'autres questions?
Are there any further questions or any further comments?
Okay, so I think that now we are going to give the floor to China for the presentation. I think, is it Jackie? Are you the one that are going to present?
Yes. Hello, Patrick.
So, hello. Go
Can
ahead,
you hear me?
you have the floor. Yeah, we hear you perfectly. And,
Okay,
and we
thank
can
you.
see the slides play also.
Okay, so Akram will control the slide, and okay, thanks. And my name is Jackie from China Post. It's my honor to introduce some experiences and the China Post has done in the past regarding the EAD capture and the transmission. And EAD is a very important project for China Post. And because our local customers also required us to provide and capture the EAD information, starting from 2018, and then China Post decided to mandate EAD for most of the products, especially for e-commerce products like small packet, like EMS, and we have taken some actions to capture data and gradually improve the quality of data. And my presentation included two parts. The first one is about the experience, and the second one is about some of the actions we're going to take in the next. Okay, next slide. The first one is the how to collect the data from the e-commerce merchants, and because over 90% of our volume are handed over by the e-commerce merchants, and it's quite easy for us to capture the data from these e-commerce merchants, and because they have stored and uploaded all the information into our ordering system, so we integrate our system with these e-commerce merchants and platforms like eBay, Amazon, and AliExpress, and we asked these e-commerce merchants and marketplaces to transmit all the required data in accordance with the ITMATT document. So, and we will also validate the data in our system if some of the data is missing, and we will not transmit the tracking ID to these marketplaces. So by this means, we can mandate the ITMATT and mandate the data for these e-commerce merchants. And besides these e-commerce merchants, we also have some large e-commerce merchants.
Jackie, we lost you.
Okay. We also designed some offline API documents. Hello?
Yeah, okay, now you are back. That's
okay. Okay, so thanks. The signal is not so stable, and we also provide these API documents to these offline e-commerce merchants, and because we also have some large merchants who have their own selling platforms, and we also provide these documents with these clients and capture data from them. And for some individual customers, because it's very difficult, because we have over tens of thousands of post offices, and we collect thousands of individual items at our post office. and it's very difficult for our postman to capture and enter all the data for these individual items. Last year, we designed an online app and promote these apps to these individuals. They can enter the data at their mobile phones and just show the tracking ID at our post office. We scan the ID and we'll print all the documents. So that by this means we can capture the data for these individual items, for these individual customers. We also know that the UPU required the DOs to capture data for the untracked packet, and we because most of our customers are e-commerce merchants, and we can transmit and print the STM barcode for these untracked packets. And as far as I know, over 99% of our untracked packet include could have the ITMATT data. So that means we can now transmit over 99% for our packet and e-packet items. For EMS, our ITMATT data is now over 85 to 90% because we still have some items which are handed over by these individuals. Okay, next slide. Data through our posting, and we have the rules in our posting system, and if some of the key information is missing, and our system will send a notice and to our postman. Our postman will know which data is missing, and if the key information is missing, they cannot complete the posting. So by this means we can mandate the data in our posting system. We also filled some of the declarations in our systems, because some of the vague description is not allowed in our system, such as gifts, clothes, and goods. And if the customer declares the contents as goods or as gifts, our system will not allow it. So that means it cannot be posted. We also scan all the mails STM barcode at our OEs. We're nesting the STM barcode with the S9 barcode, so we can realize that the untracked and tracked items in our OEs. So by nesting these information with the S9 receptacle information, the destination post could locate the items very easily. Next slide, please. We have our top management also highlighted and takes this issue is very important, and we have arranged some specialists to monitor and to improve the ITMATT quality, and they will monitor the quality and data on a regular basis. And if there's a decrease, and they will report that information to our related teams, and they will analyze the issues and ask our marketing and our operation team to improve the quality as soon as possible. We also have some bilateral contact with some key partners. For example, we have some regular exchange with USPS, and if our ITMATT quality is decreasing, and the USPS IT team will contact us, and our team will follow up quickly. As I just mentioned, we have developed our own monitoring system. Our system will monitor the change of ITMATT data and provide the report on weekly and monthly basis. Next slide, please. These are the steps we have taken to increase the ITMATT the data, and how we have improved our ITMATT quality in the past. But we still have some issues for ITMATT. First one is about the system. China Post has 2 systems, because in our post office we used another system. This system is very old, outdated. It's very difficult for us to mandate the ITMATT in old system. So that's why we still have some items, especially the parcel and the untracked packet, which do not have the ITMATT data. And this year, our post office.
Slide it.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Which is modern and. Hello, you can hear me?
Yeah, now, yes.
Oh, sorry, I'm in the hotel. It's not so stable. Yes, I'll continue, and we're planning to implement this new posting system in most of our post offices this year, and mandate the ITMATT for these post offices. And by this means, I think we can increase the ITMATT data for these individual items. Second one is about the untracked packet. Because for some of the post offices, they don't have the printer, and that means the customer has to send a untracked packet. They have to use some. They have to have some S10 sticker first, and but since they do not have the printer, we are planning to use some pre-made sticker, and our headquarters is going to procure the pre-made sticker, and will hand over or distribute these stickers to our post offices. And by this means, I think we can cover most of the untracked packet. Next one. We also experience some issues with the inbound ITMATT data, and because I know that some of the post operators are transmitting the data to China Post, but but most I know that a large portion of the inbound items do not have the ITMATT data, and our local office have to manually scan and enter the data. We hope that all our postal operators could start to capture and transmit the ITMATT data to China Post, which can help us to improve the customer clearance. The second one is about the but we still have some issues with the quality, because it is very difficult for us to control the description of the items. Some of the customers they still describe the items in very general terms, such as shoes, goods, or clothes, and we are trying to develop some description database for these customers, so they can refer to the database and to provide more accurate and a complete description of the contents. The third one is about the VAT. I know that some of the countries are starting to mandate VAT. For example, UK and some other, the EU will also start to mandate the VAT in July, and we are also cooperating with some of the post partners to capture the VAT IDs in ITMATT data, and but there's no standards for this. We also hope that UPU and the EMS Cooperative could help us to design some standard requirements for the VAT, so we can present these requirements to the marketplaces and the merchants and transmit the VAT in accordance with the requirements. These are the experiences of China Post, and if you have any questions, I'm very glad to answer questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jacques. It was pretty clear and a very transparent presentation, so thanks. Je voudrais juste rappeler à tout le monde
I would just like to remind everyone that if you can please switch off your cameras whenever you're not taking the floor, because that occupies bandwidth. There's almost 140 of us on the call at the moment, and it would be useful if you could please switch off your videos when you're not taking the floor. I see we have one question from Mohamed, and I will pass the floor to him.
Please, Mohamed, if you want to unmute, because you are still on mute.
Any questions? No?
على سرعة التوزيع وعلى أداء التوزيع، هل ممكن توضيح؟
The speaker was not clear. Could the chair ask the speaker to repeat the question?
It was difficult to hear, so probably we can either have a question within the chat. Okay, well, just for as we have under time pressure, probably we can go on, and if there is any question, Mohamed, don't hesitate to send it by email or come back later. So now we have Javier is going to present us the operation performance. So you will mainly see some different figures. Javier, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patrick. Merci. Est-ce que vous m'entendez bien?
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, no problem.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'll give my presentation in English. So this is about some reports that you can use on QCS Mail Big Data, but also on your CDS platforms if you are using CDS to control and monitor your ITMATT transmissions. So next slide, please. First and foremost, we'd like to recommend you to use the Customs EAD Compendium, where we have attempted to gather and disseminate information related to EAD requirements. So customs information related to EAD requirements, such as the number of CN23 copies required at destination country. As per current UPU regulations, the maximum number of CN23 copies that can be requested is 2. So I think that's important because in the past this used to be more, but now the maximum number is 2. Also, some special requests or recommended fields that some DOs explain, sometimes through circulars, sometimes directly by asking us to update the Customs EAD Compendium. So in some cases, this could be the telephone number. So for some countries, the telephone number is very useful to complete customs clearance, or an email address. So you will find this kind of information. Also, DSA requirements that the designated operator may have are expressed in that Customs EAD Compendium. as well as some contact information for you to be able to reach out and start the discussions around signing a DSA if required, or any other questions you may have related to the exchanges of EAD and ITMATT, of course. And now moving on to the QCS Mail Big Data Platform. We have a number of reports on that platform that can be very useful for your initial ITMATT efforts, also to monitor your pre-desk compliance. First, we have this monthly Securex ITMATT report that we created back in the days of the pilot Securex project, basically to show what designated operators are sending ITMATT for which mail products in the previous month. So this report runs on the 10th of the following month. So now you would be able to check the data for March and see which of your partners are sending ITMATT for what mail products. There is no volume information, it's just yes or no. I'm sending some ITMATT for Ecom Pro or for EMS, and that's it. So then you know that they do have the ability to exchange ITMATT, and you can contact the persons provided in the Customs EAD compendium to see how you can initiate the exchanges and send your items in compliance or in conformance with the UPU regulations. Next slide, please. Then we have another report that runs daily. So this should be particularly useful when you're trying to troubleshoot any problems on your CDS or other platform that you're using to generate and transmit ITMATT. If you are on PostNet, you will be able to see how your ITMATT is being transmitted through PostNet. So you can run the report. You will be able to see the items for which ITMATT messages were sent in the previous day, but also in the current month. So basically, it's a report to help you monitor that the ITMATT transmissions are happening as you are expecting them to happen. So we know many DOs are capturing the data, the declaration data, for instance, on CDS, but unfortunately, due to technical issues, misconfigurations, or the fact that the data sets might not be complete, the declaration data is captured on the CDS platform, but then the ITMATT is not transmitted. So this is the report, items ITMATted in the current month, that you want to use to monitor that ITMATT is being generated as you expected. And you will be able to check for the previous day because the report runs daily. Next slide, please. Then on CDS itself, if you are using CDS to send ITMATT, there are a number of reports that you can run to be able to control that the ITMATT is being generated successfully, or any errors that you might be getting because of the use of wrong formats in some of the fields. So the first report is called ITMATT outbound feed, and you can use it to check that the ITMATT files are being generated successfully. So one of the common problems that could happen on a local CDS installation, and my PTC colleagues can probably attest to this, is that the service component is not running. So everything is correctly configured, the data sets are complete, the declaration data is being uploaded or captured into CDS, but the ITMATT files are not generating because of this technical issue. You can very quickly control that you're not suffering from this technical issue by running the ITMATT outbound feed and check that the ITMATT files are generated or are being generated as you expect them. Also, by running this report, you will be able to see that the files are being generated to each of the partners that you have attempted to configure. So it should be useful for you to control and confirm that the correct CDS components are running and that your EDI exchanges configuration is as you expected. Next slide, please. The next report is to check on errors. As you may be aware of, one of the common issues for ITMATT files not to be generated is that on the declaration data set that you're capturing in CDS, maybe one or several fields for that particular declaration may contain incorrect values. Examples of incorrect values are postal codes, the HS code format that is being used is incorrect. Some other issues could be an invalid sender or recipient, or the lack of a mandatory field such as locality. If you don't provide the locality, so the city or the town, the village, then ITMATT cannot be generated. And you will be able to check on this report these kinds of errors. Now with the postcode problem, there have been quite a lot of issues because in the previous version of the standard, the postcode was checked against a specific format. And CDS has been doing that until CDS 2021 that was released very recently. So in fact, it was released 2 weeks ago. So please upgrade to CDS 2021 as soon as you can if you have a CDS local installation. Otherwise, if you are using CDS Post, the upgrade will come soon. And you will be able to have less postcode validation errors, which should increase your ITMATT generation rate. Also, another common problem is that HS codes, although it's an optional field, in fact, it's recommended for commercial items, sometimes the wrong format is used. And instead of a numeric character, an alphabetic character is used. And then CDS will not be able to generate ITMATT if the field has the incorrect format. Even if it's an optional field, at the time of trying to generate the ITMATT, it will just detect, oh, there's something wrong with the quality of the data that has been provided. You will be able to run these ITMATT outbound reports to see for each mail item for which you had a problem, and that's those items that have been crossed because they are real items. This is a real run of the report. You will be able to check for each item ID, for each S10, what's the specific problem that you're having. Then, once you know the problem, you can access the declaration data screen for that particular item and correct it. Once corrected, you will be able to generate the ITMATT file. Next slide, please. And the last report that we have in CDS for you to look at improving data quality and monitoring and controlling your declaration data capture in CDS, basically allows you to check some parameters that might be a little bit more subjective, but that do give you an indication by destination of the quality of the data that you're capturing and transmitting. For instance, so some of these fields are optional, but they are recommended, like the HS code field or the recipient telephone number, the recipient email. You will also be able to check the percentage of items that are being declared as gifts. So if you're receiving most items from commercial platforms, this percentage should be very low. If you are receiving most items from social customers, so this is from individuals who are posting their items to other individuals, then it's okay if the figure is high. But it's for you to check that the declarations are being filled correctly. It's in the regulations that the responsibility lies on the sender, but the sending DO has to assist the sender in providing an accurate and complete declaration. So these are some tools that will allow you to monitor your data quality as well, even the more, let's say, subjective indicators. Now, moving on, next slide, please. On the QCS Mail Big Data platform, we have some monthly reports that can be helpful in your efforts to monitor how your volumes are becoming more compliant. So for instance, these reports, the ITMATT declaration level and the previous versus ITMATT monthly report, both of them, you can find them on the ITMATT tab on the QCS Mail Big Data platform. They will give you a percentage value indication for how much ITMATT you are sending, how much PREDES you are sending, and you will be able to monitor that, how it evolves over time, to check that the control actions that you're doing at the operational level are having an effect. These reports are the ones we're using in the QSF EAD project that our colleague Nuo presented. And basically we build a time series which allows us to control that the actions that we are recommending and the tasks that are being done within the project, such as remote support sessions, or the procurement of equipment, the rollout of the mobile data capture app, that they are having a positive impact in the increase of these indicators. So you will also be able to use these reports to drill down and see for each, even at dispatch level, where do you have your problems. So they are very recommended, both the ITMATT declaration level and the previous versus ITMATT. The only caveat with these reports is that they run the third week of the following month. So this means that for both of these, the latest data we have available is for February, because of the many parameters that are involved, calculations, correctly determining that the item was actually sent and received on a particular month, especially these days with the transport issues and constraints from the pandemic. When you try to build such an all-encompassing report, you want to have a bit more time to make sure that all the events are correctly captured, all the events that are going through the QCS Mail Big Data platform. Next slide, please. And that is all from my side. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If there are any questions related to this, I will be more than happy to take them. Thank you very much, everyone.
Merci, Javier. Y a-t-il des questions?
Thank you, Javier. Are there indeed any questions? As you can see, there are an awful lot of tools being made available to you. We'll have another presentation about capturing tools a little bit later, and then we'll have some more reports, more specifically on EMS. But as you can see from this, there are already things that exist for you, available to you. I don't know whether anybody has any questions. I have one for Javier if nobody else does. In the QCS part, is there a separation between the different types of service so that you can look at the level of quality of tracking, package, etc.? I think that would be interesting.
You can select by mail product, so you can choose also by destination. So if you're interested in checking your compliance with a particular partner designated operator, you can select by product. So for instance, in this case, EMS, and by destination country. So if you wanted to check your compliance with Switzerland, you could select Swiss Post, and then you would get the full breakdown for that particular partner. You can also get both of these reports, previous versus ITMATT and the ITMATT declaration level report. You can get them for all your partners. So you can select by mail product and by partner designated operator. Thank you, Chair, and I think we have David Pilkington who wants to take the floor.
David, you have a question, so you get the floor. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you, Javier, for your presentation. We are, the United Kingdom Royal Mail, are already members of the work in this area. Just to emphasise one point, which is it's critical that we have probably a situation where we're looking at ITMATT data as operational data as much as anything else. So regular review, understanding what's happening with your import and export data. And we have discussed this extensively in the customs group. Indeed, we are, Javier, as you know, working on a roadmap for all countries. But what I wanted to underline was it's critical that almost by member, you have a person dedicated to look at this sort of data and engage with PTC and our partner posts. And we're doing that within Royal Mail through Darrell Welfare to identify where countries are in the progression towards EAD and where we are indeed, and how we can help each other to increase that level. So it's a great tool, but we, the post, still have got a bit to do to make sure it can work. Thank you.
Thanks, David, for this comment. Yeah, I know we are just starting the road on the custom and EAD for sure. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions?
Anybody else have a question?
Okay, so Javier, thanks. Yeah, we have a question from Mohammed. Mohammed, if you got the floor.
السلام عليكم. هل يوجد أي تطبيق عملي مدى تأثير تبادل الايتيمات على دولة ديستنيشن؟ يعني ممكن نعرف ما مدى تأثير تبادل الايتيمات داتا بين الدول، لأنه لغاية الآن احنا بنحكي بشيء نظري وليس بشيء انعكس على الإند تو إند بروسيس. هل ممكن توضيح ذلك؟
Sorry, I think we had an issue with the translation. Can you repeat your question or comment, because we didn't get a translation, so I'm not fluent.
هل يوجد تطبيق عملي أو فعلي لبيان مدى تأثير تبادل الايتيمات بين الدول، مدى تأثيره على عملية الإند تو إند بروسيس من ناحية التوزيع أو من ناحية الكاستم بروسيس؟
Javier, you get the question?
Sorry, I was trying to use the translation function, but it wasn't working for me.
Same for me.
Did someone understand the question? Apologies, but I didn't understand it. I was trying to use the translation function.
Sorry, can the interpreter make the translation either in English or in one of the language?
Okay. هل يوجد أي تطبيق عملي لمدى تأثير تبادل الايتيمات على عملية التوزيع أو عملية البريدية من البداية إلى النهاية؟ الآن فقط نحن ندرس بطريقة نظرية ما مدى تأثيرها على العملية من البداية إلى النهاية. هل يوجد دولة حضرت هذا التأثير أو ال EMS Cooperative هل حضروا هذا التأثير على مدى عملية التوزيع والبداية للنهاية؟ شكرا.
Javier?
Sorry, I only understood shukran.
Yes, that's the same for me. There is no translation from Arabic to English or French. Sorry about that. I think we have an issue with the translation.
Maybe if you could send me your question via email.
Yeah, I think
I'll make sure to follow up with one of our colleagues, and we will be able to provide you with a response.
Can I translate what he asking?
Yes, please.
Yeah, he is asking what is the full impact for ITMATT integration from the end to end. Like if one country send ITMATT, do we have a practical example for any postal operator that use the full data for ITMATT that reflected in operation, on delivery and everything, or no? That is what he was asking for.
Yes, well, ITMATT is used for customs clearance by a large number of UPU member countries. Customs clearance and security purposes. That's why the Postal Operations Council approved making it mandatory. So in fact, some of our members, also international legislation, have also reflected the need to provide the advanced data for security reasons. And that's also why the consequences of not sending the ITMATT to certain destinations are harsher than to others, because the moment UPU regulations require the transmission of ITMATT, and that's already the case since the 1st of January 2021, member countries may declare the items as being wrongly admitted, and customs may refuse processing the items because they need the data for security and risk assessment purposes. So I hope I was able to answer the question. Thank you very much for translating. And of course, please don't hesitate to follow up via email as needed. Thank you.
And probably just to add on what Javier was saying and complete the information. Of course, as when you transmit ITMATT, it can be used for custom, inbound custom and inbound processing, inbound custom processing. But in addition, and this is the case, for example, in France, we are using also part of the data to for the delivery process, because of course you do also provide real address of the recipient and some additional information like the phone number or email, which allow us also to have a more standard delivery processes and even send notification if required to the recipient. So I think it's the main aim of EAD is security and custom, but you can also capitalize on this information in order to facilitate your own processes on delivery and be also able to get exchanges with the recipient, which will facilitate your delivery process, but also all the customer service issues that you may have to solve after. So I think it's a real win-win situation compared to what we can offer. I hope this does also answer to your question.
شكرا.
Okay. Y a-t-il une autre question? Merci, and thanks for the translation.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question?
Dans ce cas, nous allons passer à la session suivante. Donc, c'est les solutions.
In that case, I'd like to move on to the next part, which is technical solutions. And there, Stefan is going to make to us a presentation. So, Stefan, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Patrick. I will present on behalf of Stefan. I'm Kazuo Kamishiro of Postal Technology Center. I'm going to present our technical solutions available for ensuring EAD requirements. Can you go to the next slide? Here is a list of a range of products. Many of you are using our products so that you are quite familiar with our products. IPS, International Mail Operation System, that manages international mail operation, accounting, and EDI exchange. CDS, Customs Declaration System, which is the tool to capture customs declaration and manage that declaration, and also handles EDI exchange, such as ITMATT, CAS item, and CAS response. And we have PostNet, that is dedicated network just for postal supply chain. Hosted by the UPU. And PostNet has also a value-added service, such as a PTC dashboard and EAD converter for airlines. Next slide, please. So here is a list of EAD requirements. The first one is data capture flow zero. This is fundamental. To accommodate many needs from the many different posts, we have a range of options you can take. And data quality, this is also fundamental. Data quality must be ensured at the origin. Otherwise, even if you send ITMATT message to the destination, your ITMATT would not be very useful at the destinations. And we have tool to exchange EDI message, which is PostNet, and compliance. This is our obligation to develop and maintain our system to be compliant with all of the UPU standards and regulations, so that as long as you are using our system and upgrade our system, you will always be compliant with UPU standards and regulations. Here is the statistics as of end of March. So now the number of users for CDS family is over 90. CDS has 3 architectural differences. One is CDS local, which is CDS local installation version, and CDS.post, which is centralized solution. And you don't have to install anything, but you can access to the CDS.post through web browser using your credential. And CDS Cloud is also CDS local, but hosted by secured environment in the hosted by the UPU. The fee for CDS and CDS.post is the same. And for CDS Cloud, there's additional cost for cloud hosting. And we have ongoing projects such as QSF Common Fund, EAD Global Project, and QSF PAPU project, and QSF PAPU project joined to the Common Fund project later last year. And we have several QSF national projects. Overall, more than 140 countries are benefiting from those projects. And we are focusing on implementation of CDS.post because of the pandemic. All of the implementation on-site visit frozen. So CDS.post is easier to implement and easier to get started. And if necessary, you can move on to CDS local or CDS cloud if necessary. It is feasible. And we have launched a new e-learning platform last year. And we also focusing on the CDS because of EAD requirements. And you have, just going back to, yes, thank you, Akram. New e-learning platform has quite many courses related to the CDS, and it has many videos. So many times or sometimes watching the video is much understandable than reading the documents, so that we have a lot of video, and later on we will add other courses such as IPS. Can you go to the next slide? Here is the list of the options you can take for data capture for Flow Zero. On the left-hand side, a customer can use a CDS kiosk or EAD mobile app. CDS kiosk is a web page. It's more for personal computers with the internet. And EAD mobile app is available on both iOS and Android. On the both application, the senders can enter their own declaration before they are coming to the post office. And at the post office, a post office counter staff can associate STEM barcode and declaration ID. Then they can print CN22 or 2023 and send ITMATT out to the destinations. At the post office or exchange office, the postal employee can use a CDS web application, CDS web user interface, one of the screen of the CDS to capture and manage customs declaration. And if you use your own system to capture the customs declaration, you can use CDS API to interface your domestic system on application with the CDS. Using API is the most recommended way. Many posts are successfully using the API to integrate CDS and with their own applications. And you can still use XML interface and text interface to import customs declaration to the CDS. Next slide, please. So then this slide is showing some example of a CDS kiosk embedded onto the website. On the right-hand side is the CDS kiosk website embedded on the EMS Cooperative website. The lower side is the CDS kiosk embedded on the Gibraltar Post website. So that CDS kiosk is embedded into any website. And declaration captured in the CDS kiosk will be directly stored to the CDS local or CDS.post. And CN22 and CN23 can be printed at home or post office. And CDS kiosk is part of the default installation of the CDS local, CDS.post, and CDS cloud. So there's no additional cost to use the CDS kiosk. And the important thing is the left lower side data quality. CDS kiosk checks CDS prohibitions and restrictions using CDS compendium, and it also look up HS code based on the description. If you enter this content piece description, CDS kiosk shows a list of HS code so that you can just select one of them. And it also has address auto-completion based on Google API. So if you enter a part of address, CDS kiosk shows some addresses. And if you can find address you want to enter, you can just select one of the addresses. The next one is example of, can you go to the next diagram? Yeah, here is an EAD mobile app. EAD mobile app is available on both Android and iOS end of last year. And it can be interfaced with CDS, of course, and any other application. I will show you later on how you can use CDS EAD mobile app with other application. And if you install EAD mobile app on the shared devices at the post office, for instance, it is recommended that you would set privacy mode. It means one customer comes to the post office and then enter and store the declaration. After that, next customer comes to the post office, but next customer cannot see the declarations captured before. And EAD mobile app is customizable. In the example, you see just demo, but you can replace it with your own postal logo or national flag or whatever. And you can change the colors, legal statement, and so on. For data quality part, is the same as a CDS kiosk. So it has CDS prohibitions lookup and HS code lookup, auto address completion. Next slide is, can you go to the next? Yes, thank you. Here is the, on the left-hand side is a screen to capture sender's detail with address auto-completion. In the middle, this is a screen to capture recipient detail. And on the right, this is the screen to capture items detail. Next slide, please. Here, on the left-hand side is a screen to select nature of the goods. And in the middle, if the item has restricted or prohibited items, it is warning message with some information. On the right, this is the confirmation of that the item doesn't contain any dangerous goods for transport security. And finally, can you go to the next slide, please? Finally, you get two things. The one is the barcode that contains declaration identifier for this CDS. So the customer, the senders can bring their item with the declaration ID to the post office counter. Then post office counter staff open the CDS and scan SM barcode and associate declaration ID in the CDS. Then CDS will print to CN22 and or CN23 and send ITMATT out to the destination. The QR code at the bottom is that contains full customs declaration information, so that you can use the mobile app with the your own application other than the CDS. Can you go to the next? Okay, again, I come back to data quality part. This is a very fundamental thing. The quality of the customs declaration data must be ensured at the origin. Otherwise, your ITMATT message will not be very useful at the destination. So that PTC solutions such as CDS generates ITMATT message only if all mandatory elements are filled. And HS code can be set as mandatory for both inbound and outbound. And some posts ask us to want to use HS code list provided by third-party companies such as Hurricane and Aurora. So this is now available from CDS 2020 Service Pack 3. And if you contract with those companies, Hurricane or Aurora, you get AP URL for the API and security token. If you put security token and API URL onto the CDS, the CDS will look up the HS code provided by the third-party company. And CDS prohibitions and restrictions and auto-completion of address, as I mentioned before. Can you go to the next? Here is the list of EDI standards CDS supports. M33-8 is a superseded standard, so that it should not be used anymore. So now you should use M33-12. And what is missing on the table is M33-13, which was approved by the UPU standard and will be implemented in the CDS 2021 Service Pack 1 that we released in July this year. And CDS supports CAS item and CAS response, and CDS will support ITMATT version 2. It's coming later because now we are focusing on ensuring all the posts are exchanging ITMATT v1. So ITMATT v2 will be coming later. And recently, just 2 weeks ago, we released CDS 2021. It supports item ref and ref RSP. So that if you use a CDS local version, it is recommended that you would test CDS 2021 and migrate your CDS to the newest version. For CDS.post user, we will migrate. Can you go to the next? Maybe Akram, can you run all of the animations because, yeah. So here is the famous data flow. You see the flow very often. Can you run a bit more? Yes, yeah, okay, thank you. So here is a very famous data flow. Only the difference here is that we added our products on each data flow. So most of the flow are covered by the CDS, and some data flows such as a sending predicate or carded message will be covered by the IPS. And we have UPU converter that converts carded message to protocol manifest requested by the destination customs. Can you go to the next? Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Do you have any questions?
Merci, Kazuo, pour ces
Thank you very much for this presentation. I would just like to apologize for Japan because, as you've seen, it wasn't Stefan, it was Kazuo who was thankfully able to present. And I've known him for a very long time, so thank you very much. And I would also like to say that Samu has been able to join us. So welcome to Samu. And thank you for this presentation. Of course, if you have any questions for Kazuo, feel free to ask them, however. Please don't write them into the chat, because the chat is reserved specially for technical issues you might be facing. So if you have a question, click raise hand, request the floor, and that will allow the interpreters to interpret your question so that everyone can understand it. So that was just a quick reminder. So in that case, are there any questions for Kazuo? And thank you very much for the presentation. And I do apologize for not having had the updated agenda.
A priori, il n'y a pas de questions, donc nous allons passer à la session suivante, qui est donc la présentation par Cayman. J'ai vu que Mélissa était là, je ne sais pas si Mélissa va faire la présentation.
From the Cayman Islands. Oh, I'm seeing one question from Usama. Usama, over to you. Thank you very much. I hope that my sound is of sufficient quality. Yes, indeed. So I would like to raise a question with regard to the services. Essentially, CDS.Post and CDS Cloud. So you were saying that the tariffs with regard to the use of CDS Cloud is more expensive than CDS.Post. But given that the different posts have different needs, we might indeed be called to use CDS Post and CDS Cloud together. This would raise issues in terms of billing and payment, because for those who pay these tariffs and have to fulfill these bills, it'll be difficult to keep a handle on this, whether the declaration was done through .Post or whether it was done through CDS Cloud. So why is there this distinction? Why are there two channels to do so? Thank you.
Hoping I catch your question. Your question is that if one designated operator used two systems, CDS.Post and CDS Cloud, am I right?
Yes, this is right. And
okay.
Why is there two different, and how to be able to control the cost of the two different based on the utilization.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. So normally one post just select and use one system, so that you will need to select one of CDS.Post, CDS Local, or CDS Cloud. So you shouldn't use two different systems in your organization. You should select one of the system, one of the options, CDS Cloud, CDS.Post, or CDS Local. Basically, if you need more customization, it is recommended to select CDS Local or CDS Cloud. But if you would like to use CDS as so-called EDI generation, EDI management, maybe it's good to use CDS.Post. And later on, if you would like to customize, or if you handle quite big data on your CDS.Post, you can move on to CDS Cloud or CDS Local. Hope I answered the question.
Oui, merci.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
Oui, en fait, le système.
Yes. So we can choose between the three systems, and of course we can move between the systems. I think whenever we have these kinds of needs, it's always wise to come back to the technical team from the PTC in order to meet with them, and they can advise you on what the best solution for your needs is, perhaps a way to start off and see that change over a period of time. And we should refer to our technical experts in order to develop the best system for your needs. So I'm not sure if there are any further questions, and if not, we'll move on to the Cayman Islands presentation. I'm not seeing any further questions. So is it Melissa?
but you get the floor.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Merci beaucoup to the chair. Unfortunately, Ms. Martinez Ebanks is unwell today. So myself, Floyd Bush, will be presenting the CDS customer service preview.
Okay, thanks for that. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So for the Cayman Islands government, their goal and their standard is always to make the lives of those we serve better. And we have to strive to keep that standard at its utmost importance. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the Cayman Islands Postal Service is a small postal administration of 80 staff. And this is across 16 post offices over 3 islands. We are net importers of EMS, net exporters of EMS. Oh, thank you. Next exporters of EMS and net importers of parcels and letter mail. Next slide, please. So to greatly serve our customers, our CDS setup is done through the CDS web kiosk on the website and inside the post office, as well as our customer app, which can be downloaded to iOS or Android, preferably Android. Now, with the app, customers can save their data as they go through to repeat data entries when they need to do another declaration online. This saves addresses, phone numbers, of course. It saves the recipient address as well as the sender's address to make the customer experience quicker, more efficient. And we have now, in the Cayman Islands, have now launched our customer user awareness for the mobile app to now expand to customers, some that already know to make their lives easier, and to ones that haven't been aware of it, to bring them on board to have them know as new customers. Next slide, please. So the benefits of CDS from a postal worker's point of view, it's the ability to provide a faster customer service and a more efficient service. Greatly reduces long lines and customer wait times. This also helps the postal worker have less work to provide advanced electronic data, provided what the customer has entered. This is 100% much easier to use than paper forms. The postal worker can now have more confidence in the declarations and feel safer when accepting the packages at the post office. Of course, this also includes making easier inspection processes and the acceptance of packages. For example, before, when I used to inspect packages, you would almost think you were at the customs at any airport, as I would take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to inspect every article or piece inside of your box or your package that you were sending out. And of course, my team and some coworkers used to complain I was taking too long. Because of the benefits of the CDS, we're now seeing faster turnaround times for inspection of the packages, because we know ahead of time what we're looking for and what cannot be sent if it's a prohibited item that was put in error or we found it by chance. Next slide, please. This one's very important. Benefits of CDS from a customer's point of view. This, because of the web kiosk and the mobile app, customers now find this more friendly, might find it more user-friendly. Also, they can now see faster processing times at the postal counter when they arrive to process their packages, and more posting options for known customers as well as new customers as well. This now encourages customers to do better descriptions of their decorations, so items can get delivered faster without any delays. Also, more control of the process and privacy. This in turn helps the ability to prepare declarations in the privacy of their home or in their office. Less questions asked at the postal counters, keeping the conversation between the customer and the postal worker more private for both parties. Next slide, please. We would like to thank the chair for our opportunity as the Cayman Islands to present our point of view, and hope that we've played an integral part in the EMS network and the UPU. Thank you. And also thank you from Ms. Millen Martinez, even though she's not here. Merci beaucoup to the chair.
Merci, Nicolas.
Thank you very much for this presentation. What I find particularly interesting was the slide on the customer interaction, because frequently it was always a discussion about client data capture was a restriction, and we can see that with properly adapted and appropriate tools, we can make this experience a more enriching experience and facilitated experience for customers, and also for post employees. And I think that's really a win-win for everybody. And congratulations on your excellent work, because I think that's very much moving in the right direction. So are there any questions on this presentation? I see there's a bit of time, so I don't know if there's any questions or comments on this. And thanks again to Nicolas and Melissa for their support and for putting forward this presentation. I'm not seeing any questions, so we'll move then on to our next presentation from Jean-Marc, and then there'll be a demonstration from Julia. So I'll pass over to Jean-Marc.
Jean-Marc, you're still on mute.
Yes, sorry, it took me a bit of time to connect the microphone.
No problem.
Okay, hello everybody. So I will present the UPU Compliance Project in relation with ITMATT, so focusing on what this project can bring to help with the EAD, so with the ITMATT verifications. So I can change the slides, I believe. Okay. So the project itself has a wider scope than EAD and ITMATT. So I will give you some words first about the full project, and then we will focus on things related to security and ITMATT. The project started in late 2017, so more than 3 years ago. It's linked to the quality of service group in terms of UPU organization in POC. And the objectives of the project are really to try and improve the quality of what is exchanged electronically. So of course, for ITMATT, it's clear we need that. We need that quality. You don't need just to send ITMATT, but you need the information to be reliable. Otherwise, there's always a risk that the mail might be refused or sent back, so you don't want that. But it's also the case with other messages, EMS EVT, PREDES. We are going more and more electronic. We want to get rid of paper, so we want to make sure the quality is good. The project is called Compliance Project, and what we mean by compliance is compliance with UPU standards. So mainly the EDI messages. So I mentioned ITMATT, EMS EVT, PREDES. So we want to make sure that what is sent is coherent and matches what we expect, what is described in the standard. So many aspects come from the IT solution you are using to send the messages, but also part is about quality and things you can improve, sometimes in your processes, in your reference data that maybe you need to refresh. These kind of things. And in terms of ITMATT, there's a bit more we do about quality, but I will go into details. The way we do all this is that we take a sample on a monthly basis. We take a 1 week sample of EDI messages, and we perform a full analysis of that data. The project is not specific to a product, so it covers EMS, but it also covers letters, parcels, everything. And when we can, we separate the results per product. So it makes it easier if you have a different solution for EMS than for other products. You would see it when it's possible, you would see it in the reports. And then we provide monthly reports to the participants. And we try, it's mentioned in the slide here, we try to make it a live project in the sense that it's not that we developed reports 3 years ago and we don't touch them anymore. No, we try to improve and enrich our reports regularly based on feedback with the participants on new business needs. Clearly, there is focus on ITMATT at the moment, and the new messages that are coming, the item reference and response. Participation to the project is free. It's for everybody. Whatever EDI network you use, system you use, it doesn't matter. As long as you sign the form, we get a copy of your EDI messages, and we use that to provide the report. And the data is really kept private. We do not use it for any other purpose than these reports. The participation, it's already a bit outdated here, but it's close to what it is. It shows 161 designated operators. We have 3 more, I think. And also there are 6 airlines. We extended the project to airlines more recently. So there are not so many yet in there, but it's also interesting when we think about the security, because in 2 years now, airlines will need to exchange carded, resdit, and include some security features in these messages in order to deliver mail to some destinations. So it's also good in terms of security that airlines can join the project. You have the link in the slide here to a web page on the UPU website where you can find more information about the project. So I encourage you to go there if you do not participate in the project or would like to have more details. And we can move to the next slide, where you see a world map showing all the project participants in red. So you can see it's the vast majority of posts participating, large and small, all sizes. The project works for everybody. So we can move to the next slide. This slide shows the aspect of the dashboard. That's one of the reports that participants receive. And it's really the starting point for any analysis of the compliance results. So this one shows a number of indicators with some colors. And from this, you can see what needs to be looked at. So if it's orange or even worse, red, it means something is wrong and needs to be investigated in terms of compliance and related to that data quality. And then there are various detailed reports for each of these indicators. You can see on the dashboard that we have ITMATT. It's in the right part on top. And in that particular case, the ITMATT indicator is blank. It means that at that time, and that's already a bit old, the screenshot here, it's from February last year. At that time, this particular operator, but it's anonymized, you cannot see who it is, but this operator was not sending ITMATT yet, so we could not make any compliance check. Nowadays, more and more posts are sending ITMATT. Definitely, it's needed. So, and we can move to the next slide. So I'm giving you now some details about the compliance checks that are performed for ITMATT in this project. And then the slide after will show some a screenshot of the report, what it looks like. So we have one, actually this slide is not specifically on the one report, but it's telling you what information we have related to ITMATT in the various reports of the project. So we have one report dedicated to ITMATT compliance. We see in the next slide what it looks like. We have something we added recently is a similar report that's showing the compliance for the ITMATT messages received. So this one is not showing you what you need to fix, but it's showing what your partners need to fix in what they are sending you. So it can help if you realize that one of your partners has a lot of problems. Maybe you want to discuss with them to push them to improve, for example. We have a set of reports specifically on the postal address compliance. We also have some slides later on that. Actually, we sent that only once. It was in December last year. As an example, we knew we had issues in the report, so we were developing them, and we wanted to get some feedback on them. And then we worked on that, and we are about to send these reports on a monthly basis. And so these reports provide detailed information if the address information is correct in ITMATT or not. This can be very useful to help with better data quality. And of course, when the address is wrong, then the delivery is more difficult. And there are other aspects of the ITMATT exchanges that we provide in the reports. For example, we try to push everybody to use the latest version of ITMATT. So there is a report informing you if you are sending the old version and you could upgrade to the new one. It's about ITMATT version 121, that's the old one, and the new one is 150. You have information about links pending approval. There is some complexity with ITMATT with the DSA, but in case you are sending ITMATT and it's not reaching the partner, sometimes it's because it's not approved yet, and you have some visibility in one of the compliance reports. Also, we show if there is ITMATT in one direction only, so maybe you are sending but you're not receiving from a partner and you would like to receive, so this can help you also see the situation. And also there might be some incorrect links. We've seen cases when ITMATT was sent to an EDI address that does not exist. So we spot that and provide that as part of the compliance reports. So if we look in the next slide at more details for the ITMATT compliance checks. So this is really taking each message and checking everything we can about it. First, there is a check of the structure. That's quite technical, but we compare to the standard that says you need to have this information, this block here, there, etc. We check that what is sent complies with that, and we report any error. Then we take the different data elements. For example, the sender and recipient. We check for strange names, things like unknown, nowhere, like for addresses with things like this. We check all that and report when we find something that looks strange. Phone numbers that are made of zeros, email addresses without the @ sign. So we raise all these anomalies in the compliance report. Other checks that are performed relate to code values. Some codes are needed in the message, and if they are invalid codes, we raise that. There are amounts, weights, also there's a content description. So we check for data quality for all these data elements. And the next slide. This one shows the aspect of the compliance report. it starts on the first page. That would be the first page. It starts with some general information, the number of issues for all the checks performed. It's very small here, but it tells you the percentage of items affected by different issues. So it can be helpful to see what error is affecting a lot of mail. So you can focus on that first. And then if we go to the next slide, it goes into details. First with the structure error, that's what we have on top here. And then the different other types of issues. And for each of them, it shows some examples. So parts of some messages. So you can see exactly what data was sent and is considered problematic. And that's the approach for all the reports in the compliance project, to provide some real data. Not all the errors, but we provide the first 10 for each type in order to help investigations. So we can move to the next slide. Now about the address compliance. What we do is, thanks to our postcode colleagues, we have in the UPU very large database with a lot of postal information. It has the address structure, the postcodes, and a lot of address details for 192 countries. And it's something that's been used for many years by the postcode team, the addressing team, I should say, in the UPU. And we are working together in order to perform some checks with addresses. I can mention here also that our colleagues are launching an API to help with the address quality. That's something that can be linked with the CDS, for example, because for the compliance project, we tell you the quality of what is sent, but it's even better, of course, if you can enforce good quality at the moment the address is entered. So with the API that my colleagues are proposing, you can do exactly that. You can force your customers to enter good quality information. So anyway, for this project, so we check what is sent and we report with a new set of specific reports. And there are 3 different reports that we provide. One is for ITMATT that you send. We indicate the compliance or the quality of the sender address in the messages you send. So normally the address should be good because it's in your own country, but still sometimes we notice anomalies. And then the part that is more interesting for everybody is in the ITMATT messages you send, the quality of the recipient postal address. And then as a nice to have add-on, we also indicate for the ITMATT you receive the quality of it's a sender here, but it's a recipient postal address. So you can also tell what partners provide good quality for the recipient in your own country. And we have, this slide indicates the kind of checks that are performed and reported in this project. There are 3 fields, address fields that we use. We could expand that in the future. We could even go deeper and go down to the address, to the street level. We are not doing that yet, but already with 3 fields, it's quite interesting what we can check. So first is with the locality. What we call the locality is normally the city. We can check if it's valid or not. And there is already complexity there because the locality can be expressed in different languages, wrong spelling, etc. So there is some intelligence in the checks to allow things that are almost right, but not exactly. Then the postcode, so what is called the zip code in some countries. First, is it expected in this country? If yes, is the format valid? Is the postcode itself valid? And does it match the locality? Because sometimes you might have a valid postcode, a valid locality, but not used together correctly. So all this is checked. in the project. And the third element, address element that is checked is what we call the region. Region is in many countries called the state, state or region. The majority of countries do not have this, but when a country has it, it's important to provide it. So again, we check if it's expected in a country, if it's valid, and again, if there's a match with the locality. So with all this, we are able to provide, I think, quite interesting results, and that can be very helpful with the quality of the address data provided in the messages. So we can move to the next slide. Yeah, and this slide shows the aspect of the report. This one would be about the own address in ITMATT messages sent. So normally it should be all green because own address, address in the own country on the sending side, it should be good. But you could see, for example, in that case, there are issues with the small packets. And for EMS, there would be issues with the validity of the postcode and the match with the locality, for example. So this is to give an overview of all the checks performed with ITMATT. So once you are able to send ITMATT, this project can help ensuring that yes, ITMATT is sent, but also the quality of what is sent is acceptable and usable by the destination post. I think you can move to the next slide, and that's the last one, yes. So thank you very much, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to try and answer.
Merci Jean-Marc. Je pense que ce qu'on va faire, c'est attendre la présentation de SMART.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. I think what we'll do is to wait for the next presentation to be made before we actually go on to questions. We're dealing with very much the same subjects after all. Julia is now going to give us a presentation on SMART, I think, and I'm sure that will be of great interest as well. The floor is yours, Julia. Go ahead.
Thank you, Patrick. For me to be able to share the screen, you need to stop sharing, please. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I will start with a short presentation, and then I will show you the live tool, so-called EMS SMART. Jean-Marc already explained to you how you can monitor the technical aspect of ITMATT, and I will show you the EMS Cooperative tool that we use for monitoring of performance in general, and how you can monitor your figures at the high level, let's say. So SMART is a simple monitoring and reporting tool, and you can find it at the www.emssmart.post. And it is password protected, so you need to have a username and a password. Most of you, I'm sure, have those already, and if not, you can always apply and get one. And this tool allows you to monitor your performance and access all of EMS Cooperative reports and the flat files. The tool belongs to the EMS Cooperative and is tailor-made for the cooperative. And it is based on the tracking data, and the rest of the information is taken from the EMS operational guide to which this tool is connected. There are several modules in SMART: Monitoring Hub, Reporting Hub, Tracking, and Education Hub. Monitoring Hub shows performance results for the past 15 months or for the last 45 days. Types of indicators shown include delivery, transport, export, and end-to-end performance, various aspects of data quality, timeliness, ratios, and also some detailed information on M40. And you have also so-called service information that includes the measurement of ITMATT. And for each dashboard, you can see results in figures. You see these numbers, you can see percentages or line chart, and you can drill down and see details on every indicator. And I'm going to show you the tool itself. On this screen, you can see the service information dashboard, which I was talking about before. And France kindly allowed me to use their dashboard for this demonstration. You can see your performance for the last 45 days, or you can switch to the monthly view. You can also look at the day of the week view for the past 6 weeks, but I'm going to switch to the monthly view to demonstrate this dashboard. On the monthly view, you can see slightly more indicators, but we are going to focus on ITMATT, and we have 2 types of data here that you can check on a monthly basis. ITMATT over EMC, which means you can look and check at any time what is the percentage of items sent with ITMATT for your outbound traffic. And you can also see what's the percentage of items received with ITMATT if you click on ITMATT over EMD. You can see compliant. So, for example, in this case, in March, you can see that 33.7% of items that were sent, they also had ITMATT messages. And 57% of items that were received, they were also accompanied by ITMATT messages. And if you click here on compliant, you can switch between compliant and non-compliant, so to see the opposite of the score. Let me just quickly drill down on the indicator of ITMATT over EMC for March. I'm double clicking here, and I can see per partner this percentage of items with ITMATT. So you can see at the top ITMATT sent. So total was 33.7 in this case, and then you can see per partner. You can do it for every partner that you had exchange of items in that particular month. And you can also switch to the view ITMATT not sent, and you will be able to see, for example, in this case, you see that 18.9% of items that was scanned with EMC to be sent to the Emirates, these 18.9% of items, they did not have ITMATT. So you can always monitor daily, but if you look at least monthly, you will already have a very clear picture of what's happening. And you can also look and you can drill down and download the flat file. So if you download the flat file, you will see each and every item, like item numbers, the S10 barcodes of those items that did not have ITMATT. Or if you switch to the view ITMATT sent, you will see all items that had ITMATT. If a number is less than 100 items, you can also go directly to track and trace, but I'm not going to show you that. So that's only what's relating to ITMATT. There are also a lot of other indicators, useful indicators for the supply chain in SMART. You can see the so-called transport performance, and that dashboard is located under service performance tab. Or you can also, in data quality, you can see the timeliness of each event transmitted, and you can also check the ratios where you can monitor your how many previous messages were responded with readiness and so on. So there are a lot of opportunities here, and you can learn a lot about SMART if you contact the EMS unit, or you can also click on the Education Hub, and if you click on the training videos, this will bring you to the videos that were created by the EMS unit to help you to learn how to use certain functions. So for the frequently asked functions, we created those videos, and we are still adding the new videos to the tool. You can also access that the same through the EMS Cooperative website. So that's it for today, because I could be training you on SMART endlessly, but today's session is dedicated to certain subjects. So I will finish with that. And if you have any questions, please contact us. We are there at your disposal on the subject at any time.
Merci Julia. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions sur les
Thank
deux
you, Julia. Are there any questions on either of the two presentations that we had? Perhaps a general comment. As you saw, there's a lot of information here. It would probably be useful for you to check which reports would be of greatest interest to you. Then we can help you to improve your ITMATT transmission in terms of both volume and in terms of quality. As you see, there are a lot of reports that go into quite a bit of detail. At the beginning, we need to start at the bottom probably and build up, perhaps between 5 and 10 lines with your main destination partners, and then start to work on improving things with those partners, while understanding that there is, of course, a preliminary stage that has to be gone through, as has been made clear. Obviously, you also have to sign a DSA to be able to exchange and make certain that the corridor, to use another of the UPU financial buzzwords, is actually open. Only if it is, can your destination operating partner be able to integrate the messages properly. And for data privacy reasons, the two partners do have to have signed a DSA before they can begin to work together and exchange information. Those are the comments I had to make before I open the floor and let anyone who has a question to put one. Don't hesitate, don't be shy. People are here to answer you. I know this session has been rather long and more complicated than usual because we're doing it remotely, but we are here to help if you have any problems. So I repeat, does anyone have questions or comment? I don't see anybody raising their hands. I know that customs matters are always a bit complicated, especially when it's just after your lunch break or late in the evening. It's probably easier for those who are a little bit chirpier on the Western Hemisphere, as it were, but we're all here. We chose this particular time slot because it was the least uncomfortable for everyone, and I do think we've got between 140 and 150 participants, which is not at all bad, so thank you for your attendance. However, having said that, if you have no questions, we'll move on to the conclusion of the meeting a little bit earlier than scheduled. Usamu, I think you were going to make the presentation on this. Again, as I said, don't hesitate. If you have a question or a comment you'd like to put to people, to contact those who have made the presentations. People will be happy to respond to you. copy in your regional EMS coordinator so that we can follow as well. And any question would be welcome, helpful, and interesting. Of course, the presentation will be put up on the EMS Cooperative website, but we'll also add any questions and answers because that will be helpful in having a wider exchange to which anyone can accede. Usama, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patrick, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for my delay in joining this meeting because I had a technical problem for my login. Okay, so I would like to provide additional information from the cooperative. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, as you know, the EMS Cooperative has been strongly contributing for the development of CDS kiosk. As explained by Kazuo of BTC, CDS has a range of useful tools for postal operators, and the EMS Cooperative members have access to CDS kiosk via EMS website. It is easy to make it available for customers, and 88 countries already use this platform. Next, please. As always, the EMS website is the platform where all the relevant data is published for EMS members. Please visit the EMS website from time to time. The EMS unit will publish all documents for your reference. Next, please. Finally, I would like to share with you the current status of ITMATT data transmission. Still, 36% of members are not yet transmitting ITMATT. And on average, 4 out of 10 items have no ITMATT. As we all conclude, there is still a need for focus and work on providing more electric advanced data. EAD is already mandatory requirement in many countries, and more countries are going to require EAD for EMS items due to security and taxation reasons. I'm sure that you have obtained useful information and regarding EAD, which will be necessary for implementing EAD as well as for improving data quality. You have also learned from other posts about how they implement EAD. I would like to take this opportunity to remind all of you that it is very important to implement and promote EAD in line with the requirement in destination countries. The reason is that it is rather difficult to maintain the EMS service performance expected by customers if their EAD data are not compliant with requirement in effect. I believe that you have learned many new things that you can take back to your own organization to apply if necessary, so that more and more customers will be able to send EMS items that are compliant with EAD requirement. Okay, thank you very much for your taking part in this important workshop. Now I would give the floor back to Patrick, Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Osamo. Je vais terminer en français.
So I'll conclude then in French, just to keep things balanced. So to begin with, I would like to thank all those who presented today, and particularly Carmen, who put in a lot of hard work in order to bring us these presentations, and also other members of the EMS unit and the IB. I'm sure, as you can see, the IB takes this work very seriously and helps us in the EMSC in order to grow our work. So this is an excellent opportunity for us. I also think it's important to stress that some of the funds available under the budget for the coming years following the Geneva Agreement are also available to facilitate the implementation of EAD in a number of countries. So please don't hesitate, and this is a very key point, and this has been particularly the case since the 1st of January this year, as I'm sure you are well aware. The transmission of EAD is strictly obligatory for any EMS object, be it a good or any other kind of item that is sent, and this must be nested within the PREDES system. This is particularly in light of Brexit, which also requires additional data, considerably more data, particularly of concern for European members who previously were able to benefit from free movement, but unfortunately will now have to do as all other members do, which is to provide information to the United Kingdom in order to facilitate import of goods. ICS2 since the 15th of March has also become a security requirement for the 27 countries of the European Union. I would stress that this is not necessarily of primordial importance, but it's still important